Hello everybody, it's 12 o'clock, so welcome to today's webinar, which is around the We Learn Digital Professionalism project, hashtag Punk18. It's nice to see that quite a few of you are here today. As I mentioned earlier, we're recording this webinar just so that we can share it with people who couldn't attend today. We're hoping the webinar will be quite short, about half an hour long, and it's really just to kind of share with you some of the work that we've been doing, just really on an interim level before we kind of dig a little bit deeper and kind of really look into the Punk18 project. So just before I start, just a few kind of housekeeping things. If you could all just make sure that your phones are muted, that way that cuts down on any background noise. That would be absolutely amazing. There is a chat box for those of you who haven't found it yet. It's in one of the orange circles. It looks like a little speech bubble, and if you click on it, then it should open up the chat box. There's a problem with Anne Ambridge, so she's unable to call in, saying it's her conference ID that's not valid. Okay, that sounds interesting. I'm not entirely sure what to do about that, Anne. If you just bear with us a moment, somebody might be able to help you. So yes. So if you want to use the chat box, then please feel free to do so. Other than that, if you want to ask any questions, is what I meant to say, then please put them in the chat box as well. So if I move on to our first slide, you have to bear with me. My computer seems to be slowing down today. Okay, bear with me a second, everybody. Okay, I think that we're just going to leave the slides like this, just because they don't seem to be working full screen at the moment. So just I apologise for that. Okay, so today, hopefully, some of the things that we're going to go through are just really a very quick overview of the Punk project and an overview of the We Learn project, and then really kind of how We Communities and the University of Plymouth came together. Then we'll talk just a tiny bit about We Learn Digital Professionalism and the aims and objectives around that. We're then hoping to kind of hop onto the We Learn platform just so we can show you guys kind of what it looks like. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what we've achieved. We'll have some time for questions at the end, but do feel free to kind of pop questions into the chat box as we go along. So, We Learn Digital Professionalism. I think probably the first and the best place to start is really with Plymouth University, and I'm hoping that if I unmute Anna and Meriel, that we will be able to hear from them. Hang on, unmute Meriel, Anna. Hang on, which one are you, Anna? Viewer 6. So if I unmute Anna, unmute. Okay, so I'm hoping, Anna and Meriel, you'll be able to speak up and tell us a little bit about the history of the Punk project. Are you there?
I certainly am, Teresa. It's Meriel here.
Hi, Meriel. Thank you for joining us.
I'm here as well, but I'll let Meriel do the Punk bits first, and I'll chip in with some bits and pieces as well. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Anna.
Brilliant. Okay, so just to give a little bit of a history about the Punk project, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. I stepped in as a university lecturer from clinical practice in 2014, and this was actually already, the Punk project was already under starting to gain some momentum Professor Ray Jones, who's a professor of health informatics at Plymouth University, Janet Kelsey, who's a senior lecturer, associate head of school now, and a child health lecturer, and Pam Nelms and Tracy Proctor-Childs were involved in a project with Teresa and Nick Chin in order to start to use Twitter as part of the assess element of the first module of the undergraduate program. So that's a pretty significant initiative in its own right, to start to use it as an assessed element. So this was nursing students in their first module of their undergraduate program, and as we know, all of our nursing students in the UK have to have a degree or on a degree program now. They were required to sign up to Twitter and undertake a course which involved lecturers and webinars and being active as professionals in public spaces digitally from 2014. And there's a publication in the Journal of Advanced Nursing about that that we will be able to send a link about later on. I guess some of the other significant things about the PUNC project are the sheer volumes of students that were involved or that have been involved since 2014. And each of the large nursing cohorts of 400 to 500 students have become PUNCs on Twitter and become digitally visible to the wider sort of global community through that. I guess that's sort of a bit of the background. There's been some research running alongside the PUNC project as well, including some ongoing studies. But I guess we haven't experienced some of the issues that occur in other social media platforms where unprofessional conduct occurs. And the idea behind the PUNC project is to encourage students right from the outset to be aware of their digital profiles and aware of their communication in public places, just as they would be on the bus or traveling around town, or when they're in their uniforms, when they're in a public place and they're identifiable as a nursing student at Plymouth University, they need to behave professionally. So I guess that's the sort of a little bit about the background, and I'm happy to answer any questions later. And perhaps, Anna, you want to chip in with a little bit more information?
Yes, thanks, Muriel. So my kind of position within the PUNC project is actually because I'm the module lead with the very first module that students do when they start their undergraduate nursing program at the University of Plymouth. So it's my job to get those students kind of transitioned from where they've come from before, actually, and getting them onto our programs, you know, and obviously onto our 3-year program and into professional practice. So I have been involved in getting the summative elements of the PUNC project kind of through our quality systems and making them kind of with the different factors that we have, the different points that we have within summative assessments within universities about getting those bits right and making sure that everything is visible and has parity, and that all students have the ability to be able to complete these assessments, because it's a very different way to do an assessment. And when we first went to the quality team, they kind of almost said, well, how on earth are you going to make, you know, or work out how these students have fulfilled an assessment criteria by doing things online, but we've managed to show them a really good system and you know, to be able to do it. And obviously this has now been completely enhanced by us working with the WE communities and with Teresa and Nick, and about, you know, their amazing platform that they've created, and actually, you know, which they'll be showing you as well.
Thank you, Muriel and Anna. That's absolutely brilliant. That gives us a really good snapshot of kind of, you know, the history of the PUNCs really. So if I move on to our next slide, this this slide talks a little bit about the evolution of WE, which I'm not going to go into too much, but essentially, you know, we started using social media for professional development kind of way back in 2012, and that kind of evolved from kind of one nurse who wanted to kind of reach out and chat to other nurses as part of professional development, and that's evolved into We Nurses, which is kind of mostly focused on tweet chats and kind of learning on Twitter, and then that in turn is evolved into We Learn, which is around using social media to learn out loud in social media spaces and to learn together. And that's kind of our very kind of short-potted history, as it were. And if we move on to the next slide, this is really about the University of Plymouth and we communities coming together. And the reason we came together is because we both kind of had this history of encouraging nurses and nursing students to get involved and to use social media for their own development and for learning. And it just seemed like a natural time for us to come together, what with all the experience we'd gained, and also in terms of the new NMC Code of Conduct, which of course now states it now mentions social media in terms of, you know, that we all must use social media in a professional way, and so, you know, the role of social media in nursing is becoming more and more important. So it just seemed right to kind of address digital professionalism, to tackle it head on, and to work together to ensure students have the tools, have the resources to be able to exist in social media spaces. So we did set out some aims and objectives, and we really wanted to show, as Anna mentioned, that it was part of the Ways of Knowing module, which is the very first module that student nurses at Plymouth are engaged in. But we really wanted to show them the possibilities of digital in nursing, and we kind of introduced them to quite a few things. And it was really about just showing them what's out there. And we all know that there are some people who take to social media and there are some people that don't. And it wasn't really a case of converting people. It was a case of just showing the students that this is out there, and if they wanted to use it, how they could use it in a professional way. We did ask the students questions, both before they started We Learn Digital Professionalism, and then we asked them the same questions after. And you can see here, these are some of the questions that we asked them. So in terms of, you know, how much they currently share learning and information and resources, how good their knowledge was in digital professionalism, and we just asked them to kind of rate themselves. I think it was from 1 to 5, and I can share with you a little bit later the results of that. So really, kind of one of the things I really kind of wanted to make sure that we did today was to show you a little bit around the platform, as from the student's perspective. So I'm actually just going to close this down a second, and if we go over here, not that one, that one. Then you can see here, this is what the students saw every time they logged in to We Learn Digital Professionalism. So we ran it for an entire month, and the idea was that students just engaged for about 10 to 20 minutes a day on the platform. They all had Saturdays and Sundays off, and every Wednesday was a rest day as well. So it was only for 4 days a week that they were engaging on the platform, and they had to use Twitter to log in to the platform. platform. And how we kind of tackled that was we had some face-to-face sessions where we literally got everybody signed up to Twitter, and we just made sure that they were happily signed into the platform before we left the room. Of course, students being students, there were a few who left the room and weren't signed up to Twitter, so we did have to offer some remote support too. But eventually we got there with everybody. So and some people took a little bit longer than others, but we got there. So students would log on to this once a day, and they'd click here to enter the course, and click here where it says go to the course. And this was their home really for the month of October. And you can see here that I've only done part of the course, so you can see that some of it says completed, some of it says in progress, and some of it says not started yet. So if I just click here on section 1, you can see here that essentially it breaks things down into steps. So if I click here on one of the ones that's completed, it just opens up a new window, and it just really kind of gave students a few tasks and things to do. If I just save and close that a second, I'll go to one that I haven't done. So if we go on to this one here, which is, it shares a YouTube video, you can see here that we use lots of engaging resources just to really kind of capture the students' interest. And each of the tasks only took about, between 2 and 10 minutes. And you can see here, time spent in minutes. They could actually change this. So if it took them a little bit longer, they could change that. And they could also kind of type in here. Obviously, this is gobbledygook because I can't type and talk at the same time. But they could write their own notes in there. And if I hit save and close on there too, then that's great. So students had to just go through kind of each section in turn, and if I just go through each one, I can show you then what happened at the end of the sections. Set as completed, save and close. If I do the same thing here, and save and close, and the same one here, save and close. Bear with me a second, because what we're trying to do is just to get to the end of a section, because at the end of a section we then ask students just to send out a Twitter badge. I could just go here, and we'll save and close this. And then this was the last one in the section, so this was really just a well done. And when they got to the end of each section, we just asked them just to complete a little reflection. This part of the course was mandatory, so they just really had to complete a few notes, just to kind of say that they participated or put down any kind of learning points or anything like that. We then asked them to save that. And then they were able to post a little badge, little certificate onto Twitter. This was entirely optional and was just really kind of just done through the use of Twitter buttons. So if I click on here, post to Twitter, a little bit later you can go on and find that and probably promptly tell me off for completing it so late maybe. But essentially that's kind of how it worked, was that students were able to go through each of the steps, and then at the end of those steps they would just hit that they'd completed that section, write a little reflection, and then kind of go from there. If we have a look at some of the other sections. So this is a section about evidence and research and the relationship between evidence and research and social media. And you can see here that if we click on one of the steps here, it talks a little bit about some of the resources that are out there, but it also kind of then asks them to kind of go over onto Twitter and share some of the research and evidence that they have found, and it asks them to talk about it with their cohort. So the whole course was really it was not only a lone thing that they did by themselves, but actually something that they completed alongside fellow students. So they were able to dip in and out of Twitter to discuss what they had learned, and to kind of share their thoughts on those things. As part of the course, we also ran 2 Twitter discussions, and those worked really well. We divided the students into 3 groups, because 500 students on one Twitter chat is quite an onerous task for everybody. So we split them up into 3 groups. And each group kind of joined the same Twitter chat, but at different times. And again, it was just really about kind of discussing concepts and ideas, and sharing resources, and answering questions. And a lot of the students really engaged really well. And I think one of the most interesting things was that actually one of the students then set up her own Twitter discussion as through the We Student Nurses group. So I think the students then went on to learn about the Francis Report and had to write an essay around that. So they ran their own discussion on the Francis Report, and the really lovely thing about that was that actually not only did somebody from the NMC join that discussion, but also somebody whose mother was at Midstaff and unfortunately passed away. So somebody who had lived experience of Midstaff also joined the Twitter discussion. And students were able to kind of, access and talk to those people, which is just amazing, really. So that was really kind of the quick kind of whiz around the front end of the platform, and what the students saw. But kind of behind the scenes was this whole back end of the platform, and as you can see here, we were able to kind of see the students as they progressed along. I think it says here that we have 471 total users. I don't think we had that many in the end, although we kind of had 471 codes to give to people to get in. I'm not entirely sure that we had 471 participants, but anyway, 445 completed, 26 people didn't complete for various reasons, but it was nice to be able to see how well the students were getting on as we went along. You can also see here this is an interaction wheel, and if I hover over some of the students, you can see that they really did talk to each other. So that was really lovely to see. Of course, the great thing about this course is it can be very kind of easily duplicated. We kind of have a whole kind of planner here where we can kind of amend, adjust, duplicate, replicate every single one of the sections and pop it into a new course quite easily, really. So this is kind of, this is very easy to use and to get along with. And of course, all the course reflections, although I won't click on those because they'll take such a long time to download, were also recorded here. So we have access to all of the comments that were recorded by students, to be able to use those and to kind of look at them and just make sure that students were doing kind of what they were meant to be doing. At the end of the course, the students were were given a certificate, and that was kind of their proof that they had completed the course. But we also had access to a database that kind of showed those that didn't complete the course, or those that completed it late. And I think in the case of one poor student, it was about 26 seconds late, which we promptly then handed over to Anna and Meriel to decide kind of where to go with that one, really. The really fascinating thing was, and we've seen this again and again with the WeLearn platform, are the Twitter statistics. And if I just head back to my PowerPoint presentation, which I'm hoping hasn't disappeared. No, there it is. Okay, lovely. So if I head to my PowerPoint presentation, you can see here that one of the most fascinating things was that although we only had, I think it was about 450 students take part in the on the course, the actual total contributors to the hashtag was 838. And like I said, this is something we see again and again with WeLearn, and it really is fascinating to see that not only when you kind of put people into digital spaces, not only do they learn, but actually that kind of reaches out to so many other people. And you know, that makes one hell of a great advert for Plymouth University, is, you know, that they've got that many students kind of out there, and it almost seems that, you know, every single student touched at least one other person, and they kind of knew what was going on. So it's just very, very interesting to see. So we had loads and loads and loads of feedback, and if I just go here, this just shows some of the feedback that we got about the course. And we got feedback not only kind of via the platform itself, but we also got feedback in terms of Twitter too. So students would send us tweets when they thought something was particularly good, which is amazing. I would say that that 98% of the course feedback was positive, and that's just really kind of, I have to say that that's not going through with a kind of researcher hat on, that's going through with just a wise eye. But it was really interesting to see a lot of the feedback. So you can see here, I think, the third comment down here where it says, I tried to start the course with an open mind, but I was skeptical, but I thoroughly enjoyed getting my head around Twitter. I mean, we had a lot of comments like that, that actually they were really skeptical that this could be a place for them to learn, but in actual fact it was. Of course, we did have some negative feedback, and you can see here the bottom comments here that somebody found it time consuming and a little bit repetitive, and that really she says it became a bit of a chore, really. So you know, so we'll kind of take that feedback and, you know, see what we can do to kind of adjust things to make sure it's slightly less onerous for them. But then, you know, you then get comments like here, this course has without a doubt been very useful. My knowledge about digital professionalism has increased hugely, and I wouldn't hesitate in recommending that this is continued. So that was all quite nice to see. We then also asked for feedback on the platform, and a lot of people said that, you know, that they really enjoyed using the platform. They liked the way that it was broken up into steps. There was one comment here, again, you know, we have negative comments too. Somebody said here that they didn't like the platform at all and couldn't see how well it could work, and that Twitter's not very good for communicating with people. Obviously very, very, very interesting comments, but yes, they were, like I said, 98% of the comments were very positive, and we probably had about 2% that were negative. But we're always going to get negative comments. You can't please all of the people all the time, unfortunately, but we can learn from those, which is absolutely great. But there was another comment here that they enjoyed using the WeLearn platform, easy to use and engaging, as each section contains mini activities. And again, this person's written, I hope we can use this platform again during my course, which is just absolutely wonderful. So I think probably the last thing that I wanted to show you guys was just really kind of the ongoing legacy of Punk 18. And if we look here, this is the Punk 18 Twitter stream. So you can see here, Paige has tweeted about the webinar today. Thank you, Paige. That's very kind of you. So you can see here that there are still students kind of, engaging and sharing things using the Punk 18 Twitter hashtag. And if I scroll down a bit here, they're sharing a variety of things. So yeah, from here, currently colouring my hair. So from very frivolous things to here an act of kindness for World Kindness Day, and kind of lots of different things that they're sharing, and they're using the Punk 18 hashtag for. And again, that not only kind of serves them well in terms of getting themselves out there, but also it kind of just it just provides them with a group of people, a tribe to identify with. So it's just amazing to see that lasting legacy of Punk 18. So if I go back to our slide deck here, I'm kind of left with this slide, which is the what next slide, which is tricky, really. I think in terms of what comes next, we really do have to delve a little bit deeper into all of the data and all of the information that we've collected, and we need to look at that and analyze that, and really kind of see how it's worked. I would say overall we've the WeLearn Digital Professionalism worked really, really well. There's always room for improvement, and that's why we kind of need to go back through all of the data, and just have a look at that with a more critical eye. We've got lots to do in terms of sharing this project, and Anna and Muriel will agree with me. We're hoping that this will kind of form the basis of the ongoing research with the Punk project, and we'll be able to kind of take it forward in that way. I think at some point we need to present this work properly. I mean, obviously the Punks only finished their course at the end of October, and here we are only in the middle of November. So we need to kind of make sure that this work gets presented somewhere and really kind of gets shared far and wide. I think kind of from a personal point of view, I'd like to see the Punk We Communities project become almost like a gold standard in terms of digital professionalism for nursing. There's a lot of experience at Plymouth University and a lot of experience at We Communities, and the two of us coming together have really created something wonderful that can be shared and used far and wide. So we've got a few plans to kind of share the project, to develop it a little bit more, and to hopefully put it out there as like I said, a gold standard for digital professionalism in nursing. I just want to go to the chat box because there's a few comments. So Caroline, who's from WeCops, so she's also a student and used Twitter to learn, and totally agree with the comments. That's really nice to hear. We hope we can use this in policing. I can't see why that this can't be used in policing, Caroline, to kind of, you know, do the same sort of thing, really. It really is kind of, you know, something there to take forward and to shape. Jack is there just chatting to Caroline. Thank you, Jack. But he's also said, I cannot overstate how much Punk 18 has benefited my experience of being a student nurse. Thank you, Jack. That's really nice to hear. So thank you. And then Muriel's commented, I'm a Plymouth lecturer and RN and manage the Punk account. I agree, Caroline, the different perspectives from interacting will strengthen academic writing. I'd have to agree with you too, Muriel. So fab, thank you. So really we're kind of coming to the end of the webinar. We haven't done too badly, so we're at 12:35, so 35 minutes. So that's good. But I just wanted to give you guys the opportunity to ask any questions, really. I don't know if any of you have any questions. I'm more than happy to answer them. Okay, is this platform standalone or part of your VLE? I have to admit that sounds a bit technical for me, Anne, but I do have somebody who's technical in the room. Nick, would you like to just step in and answer that for me?
So this is so it's a standalone system. So it's a web-based tool. Teresa's been showing you how the students have been accessing it via the web. There was a little bit of fun getting the students onto the system. So Muriel and Anna can talk about how we work with university to make sure that was a robust and secure process. But the platform itself is web-based, but of course it's using a lot of Twitter's open interaction, and we're pointing people to Twitter and we're listening to their activities in Twitter, and that's what's feeding back into some of the great engagement pieces and engagement wheels and that kind of thing that has Teresa showed you. So it's probably a bit of a blended system. So a lot of the VLEs will have the ability to use single domains and to use single logons. So we've got the flexibility to integrate with those, but it can either be standalone, or we can work with universities to make sure that it's part of single sign-ons.
Okay, so Maria's also chipped in there. She said virtual learning network, it is not embedded into Moodle at Plymouth. And then Anna said underneath, all of the content about the platform and the general instructions appeared on our VLE. So hopefully that answers your question, Anne. Okay, thank you, she says. Okay, so Mariel's also mentioned there, Nick and Teresa have been vigilant and responsive to the need to be in line with the university processes and data protection. Yes, absolutely. And we've certainly worked really closely with Plymouth to make sure that that's happened. There's another question at the top. So Jack has asked, have you been approached by other universities who have seen Punk 18 and are interested in engaging their students? We have been approached by a couple, Jack, but we haven't really been in the position to talk to anybody until now. But we'd really love to hear from any other universities who are interested in this. And you know, we'd more than happily talk to them and tell them a bit more about it and show them around the platform. So viewer 8 says, can it only be done by universities? Could community groups use this platform? Really interesting. So I think I'm going to hand over to Nick to talk about that one.
So the interesting thing about We Learn Out Loud is it's a way of learning. So it's not specific to a type of learning or a place-based type of learning. If you think of the concept of creating a cohort, be that of students or be that of remote workers or be it of people that have a like-minded ambition, so a volunteer peer group, then taking them through a process that starts in the We Learn platform, but but is giving them the schools, the tools and the skills to engage and learn and have professional open conversations, then absolutely you can use this type of learning in any situation, really. So that's exactly what it's designed for. That's what the We Communities have been doing for 6 years or so now. And it was the fact that Plymouth University were very focused on delivering the digital professional and the skills for their students to be able to take beyond their course was exactly where we came together. So absolutely, the answer to that in short is yes.
So there's also been a comment from Viewer 4. I'm sorry, Viewer 4. I don't know your name. So it says, I'm a first year student children's nurse who completed this platform when I started my course. So I was worried about posting on social media prior to this course. However, it's given me the knowledge to post my journey as a student and make connections all over the world. Oh, it's Paige. Oh, that's wonderful. Do you know, that's absolutely lovely to hear, Paige, and I'm so glad that it's kind of helped you. And I think that, you know, you can only go from strength to strength and develop your digital footprint as part of being a student. So there's another comment or question here. It says, when they complete this as part of the Way of Knowing module, was this weighted as part of the summative assessment? I think maybe Anna or Muriel might be able to answer that. As far as I was aware, Anne, what happened was that they had part of part of the summative assessment was around writing an essay, but this was another part of it, and it was really kind of just a pass or fail in terms of have you completed or haven't you completed. But maybe Muriel or Anna might be able to answer that. Oh, hang on. Muriel has answered it. She says it was on a pass-fail basis. Completion of the platform results in a pass. And then Anna says, yes, it was weighted as part of the summative assessment, so it ensured engagement. Fabulous. Thank you, guys.
Just to stick my oar in there, I think that the original research by Ray and the rest of the team indicated that it needs to be part of the assessed elements for this to really encourage engagement. But we didn't want it to be a massive proportion of it. It was always a small proportion of the whole module, but you need to complete it in order to successfully complete the module. And they also have an essay about the Francis report as part of their module assessment that Anna is the module lead for, and I'm currently marking essays as a result of that. So the Francis report, to come back to Teresa's discussion about the We Nurses Chat, that Francis report discussion was brilliant in that it engaged people who were there, who were actively involved in what was happening at the time, and that was a very validating thing for student nurses to be involved in. It was quite powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Muriel. That really kind of clarifies all of that. And yeah, I totally agree. Kind of read that Twitter discussion, and of course, you know, the students, unless we'd have kind of put them through this process, they wouldn't have really had the opportunity to kind of do that. Or so it's very, very interesting indeed, and it's brilliant that they kind of, you know, they stepped forward and kind of created that opportunity themselves. So it's brilliant. So there's another question here from Marianne from the University of Stirling. I'm interested in finding out more, as we have started using hashtags for modules, dipping our toe in the water, but fear we are excluding those not on Twitter and perhaps not supporting our students enough with digital literacy. Well, Marianne, we didn't just kind of talk about Twitter on the digital professionalism we learn. We talked about all sorts of social media, and we got the students to use things like YouTube videos, Powtoon videos, infographics. We talked about Facebook. We talked about blogs. So we got them to kind of use and open them up to a whole range of social media. But I guess kind of where Twitter came in is it was kind of the linking force. So you always kind of have to have something that kind of links it all together, and Twitter does that really well. So it's really kind of, you know, about kind of, like you said, supporting the students with digital literacy, kind of opening up their thought processes to those possibilities. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, I think what was really fascinating about working with Plymouth was the fact that this was one of the first parts of the things that the students did, and a lot of the feedback was that I really couldn't believe the first thing I'd be doing to learn how to be a nurse was to learn how to tweet. And I think the really interesting thing here that we really mustn't escape is that this gives them a new skill. This gives them a lifelong skill and gives them a new way to learn. And we've already talked about the interactions of the Francis, the people that went through Francis really demonstrates that. But I think one of the things that we've found particularly interesting, straight frustrating in healthcare and in Twitter, for example, is this whole need to drive people onto Twitter. Every time you go to a conference, it's here's the hashtag. But if you're not giving people the skills to be able to understand how you use that space professionally, then possibly you're leading them down a path where they might get in trouble, but you're also doing them a bit of a disservice if you're not giving them the skills. And I think the feedback from the punks in particular, that Teresa has shared a few that say that, you know, they'll continue using this, and they've really understood the value, and so they've got the lived experience, and I think that's a really interesting point.
Okay, so just making sure that we've kind of addressed all the comments before we finish up here. Somebody's also mentioned here, so it must be one of the students, I think that's Paige, isn't it? Viewer Thor, I hope so. It was also a good idea that the days were locked until certain times, so it made us as students only do a little bit a day. So what we did was each of the steps were they were only released at certain times, so the students kind of had to complete the whole course together. They couldn't skip ahead, which I think frustrated one or two of them, but the idea is that they actually learn together, and they support one another, and they use those opportunities for discussion. So it was important that they did that together, and that they kind of were locked out until certain days, and so each, you know, kind of every couple of days we released a couple more steps. So it's nice to kind of get that feedback. Thank you.
I just wonder, before we close, Mariel or Anna, do you think you could kind of pinpoint one of the single benefits that made this way of supporting the students different to any other type of learning? Putting you on the spot a little bit, but how did this way of learning, how did that differ from maybe something like getting someone from Francis down, or maybe putting them through a piece of traditional e-learning where I might just watch a video and answer some questions? Is there one thing that stood out for you in particular?
I think it's Mariel. I think from my perspective, there is something really powerful about being able to talk directly without any and have an immediate response. So, for example, Jane Cummings responded to one of our tweets about 6Cs. The lady who was the daughter of somebody who was involved in the mid-staff's poor care episodes. As you said, the NMC, there's something, if you have somebody stood in front of you and lecturing a group of 200 or 300 students, that's a very different experience from being there live and tweeting something and having a direct personal response with your Twitter name in there back to you. It helps to engage you much more readily and much more personally. And certainly the research and reading that I've done about Twitter and digital learning is that the WeLearn platform, it's access to a community of practice, and that's what we nurses has helped Plymouth University students to engage with, because the We Nurses and We Communities and WeLearn Out Loud being part of that is an incredibly powerful thing to actually be able to find specialists from all over the world who are all together in a community of practice and sharing their knowledge and their support. There was some incredibly supportive comments back to our students about their studies and about encouragement for them. And that's very different from that sort of lone. There's a perception that digital learning is a very lone activity, and it certainly can be. Distance learning and e-learning can certainly be you sat alone, but that immediate response is very different. And access to your community of practice, Nick and Teresa, is really a very powerful positive in this. You couldn't replicate the same sort of experience without that. So I'll shut up at that point.
Thank you, Mariel. That's brilliant. Okay.
I'm sorry. I know, Teresa, you're trying to get to the end. I just wanted to say as well, as I'm really proud of this collaboration. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Every time I think about what we've done, how far we've come, it's absolutely brilliant for our students, for the wider health community. But for me, the main thing was about the visualness of it. Is about we have appealed to every type of learner. And that's me finished.
Thank you guys. I mean, it's certainly, I think it's something that I'm very proud of. I think that the it's been wonderful to work with Plymouth University to be able to take this forward, and I think that it's an excellent platform, and you can clearly see from the comments and the feedback that I've been reading through since the course ended, that the students have been really engaged, and they've learnt so much. And they continue to do so because they're still continuing to use the hashtag and to kind of share and discuss things, which is exactly where we should be. So thank you guys, thank you Plymouth University. It's hopefully this is the start of something really quite wonderful that we can take forward in the future to make sure that all student nurses, in fact all students everywhere, kind of have the tools to be able to survive in the digital space. So I guess if we can just wind up now, which will be amazing. Thank you all very much for your time. Thank you for listening. If you do want to know anything more about WeLearn or WeLearn Digital Professionalism, then please email me. I'll more than happily come and chat to anybody about this and kind of show them around the platform. So give me a call, email me, tweet me, don't mind any of those things. Thank you very, very much, and just keep an eye out for the for kind of more stuff, because this is just the start of kind of sharing this project really. Okay, thank you all very much for your time. We will finish the recording here now, and we'll just make sure that this recording is available. I'll email all of you with the link to the recording so that you have it if you want to share it on. Okay, thank you very much everybody. Bye bye.